This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stella's. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show designed to help bring the trends that are shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around us into your life, to make you aware of what's going on out there. The goal is to make you just a little bit better at whatever it is that you do by understanding how other people out there are dealing with the trends that are shaping the business. And I'll admit to you, this show creates a level of curiosity in me. And it allows me, the show also allows me to put a salve on that curiosity, to absolve it, I guess. And there are things that I can see and hear and learn about. And I'm allowed to ask the questions because I have a radio show. If I were to call people up and say, you know what, I heard something interesting about your business and I'm just curious about it, most people wouldn't take the call. But when I attach the fact that I've got a radio show to it, they'll talk to me. And I have just an extraordinary curiosity, and the show allows that curiosity to flourish, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure, but I enjoy it. Like I said, it allows me to scratch an itch. And here's a perfect example. So 2 hurricanes run through the Mobile, Alabama area this past summer. And if you have or you're aware of anybody in this area that has a house on the waterfront, they suffered in some form or another from those hurricanes. The tides came up, the winds pushed the storm surge in, and waterfront structures were damaged. Most of them were docks, wharves, whatever you want to call them. They're called different things in different parts of the world, but they were damaged. And when people began to post pictures of their houses, waterfront homes, post hurricanes, they all kind of emphasized that the dock is gone, the dock is damaged, or we suffered minimal damage compared to so-and-so, or we suffered more damage. Bottom line, there was damage, and some of those docks just vanished. There was an exception in a photograph that I saw. And there's this dock that seems to be perfectly intact. Yet to its left and to its right, all the docks were gone. I mean, not damaged, gone. They'd vanished. And the storm had caused them to vanish. This was on Dauphin Island. So I saw this picture and I said, what's the story there? Why is this dock undamaged? How did that happen? So I began to ask around. And it turns out that dock was built out of a different type of wood. Most docks in our neck of the woods, folks, down here in the deep south, are built of southern yellow pine. And it makes sense. The stuff is plentiful. You drive north from Mobile, Alabama, and you're in pine forest. Heck, that road between Mobile and Montgomery, what is that, I-65? It's just pine forest the whole way. Pine trees are plentiful where we live. It makes the source of wood cheap. It makes the source of wood obvious. And you think that's what you should do until you see a picture of docks damaged left and right, or gone, vanished, and one remains. What was that dock made out of? A wood called EEE-pay, I learned. EEE-pay is a very dense wood. EEE-pay sinks. If you were to have a piece of EEE-pay and throw it in the water, whether it be the Gulf of Mexico, the Mobile Bay, Foul River, whatever, it's going to sink. You throw southern pine wood into the water, it floats. The significance? When the water comes up underneath a pine dock, that pine floats on the top and pushes up, and it pulls out of its nails, and it pulls the pilings up with it. EEE-pay suffers none of that, and that's why that dock stuck around. So I thought, oh my goodness, there's a story. There's a radio show. Who sells EEE-pay? Who can teach me about EEE-pay? And I began to ask those questions. Well, who turns up but a former guest of the show? The Overseas Hardwood Company sells EEE-pay. And I had Luckett Robinson on the show I don't know when it was, maybe 18 months ago. And I reached out to him and said, listen, I hear that this dock is made out of your wood. I want to get you back on the show to talk about it. He said, my brother Gregory's the right one for this conversation. So when we come back, we're going to have Gregory Robinson on the show. He works at the Overseas Hardwood Company. He's got this expertise in EEE-pay. He's going to tell us a little bit more about it, why it does so much better, as well as some other stuff that I've learned about their organization, which I have to admit, is pretty dang cool. That's the nature of the show, man. If I think it's pretty dang cool, it's going on the air, and that's what we're talking about here. Take a look at the pictures of the docks that were destroyed in the hurricanes last year compared to the ones that weren't. The ones that weren't destroyed are probably made out of what I'm calling, and they'll roll their eyes when they hear this magical wood. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be back after this break.
Back in 64, that's when Keith Air Conditioning opened their doors.
In my family, turn to the experts is more than a tagline. It's a promise. Every Keith technician is an experienced AC professional, and that saves you money. Speaking of money, how about 0% financing for up to 60 months on installations of new Carrier systems? Keith and Carrier, turn to the experts.
Mobile's leading name in comfort since 1964.
License number 83731.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
Think about how people really see you. The kid at the drive-thru just sees a coffee drinker.
Please pull forward.
Your local barista sees the person who loves a smiley face in their latte.
See you next time.
It's kind of the same way with insurance. Other insurance companies just see a customer, but a State Farm agent sees more. They see you as a neighbor. Your State Farm agent is here to get to know who you really are so they can help life go right.
Call me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, in Mobile at 666-1616.
Welcome back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston, and here in the studio with me today is Gregory Robinson. Gregory is the Vice President of Operations and Business Development for the Overseas Hardwood Company, based here in Mobile, Alabama. They've got a major facility up in Stockton. Gregory speaks functional Portuguese, which is not something I ever thought I'd hear from somebody like this. Traveled extensively through Brazil and South America, Asia and Africa, all to find species of hardwood that have some unique qualities to them, which is the thing that prompted me to try to get your company back on the show. Gregory, thank you for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Welcome back to the Overseas Hardwood Company. I had your brother, Luckett, on the show, and he was talking a good bit about the business and how it came about and the family business and your father's story and stuff like that. Our focus today, though, are the qualities of the products that you guys make available to the marketplace all over the country, and it's all over the world as well, isn't it?
It is.
So tell me a little bit about what you all look for when you have a piece of wood in your warehouse. If I'm going to walk around your site in Stockton, there's going to be a number of different species of products. Do they have anything in common?
We have about 35 or 40 species of lumber in inventory at any given time. Those species can be used for a number of different things. Today we're specifically talking about decking. So for decking products, we're looking for a density, a very dense lumber. We're looking for a natural durability. We've got no chemicals or any kind of treatment in any of our lumber, so it needs to be naturally durable the way it was grown in the forest. And so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a product that will last a long time, that will be very durable, that can sustain, heavy traffic, commercial traffic, and so that's what we're looking for.
So as I step into your industry for the purpose of this interview, let's get some terminology straight so I'm using it correctly. Decking means what exactly?
Decking is the top surface material used for decks, for porches, piers, decks on the back of your house, commercial applications, boardwalks. That would be decking.
Decking is anything, it's all going to be exposed to the elements, I would guess, based on this definition?
It is. It's typically open air applications. And so back porches, piers, boardwalks, decks on the back of your house, usually wide open to the elements.
So in our neck of the woods, the longleaf pine back in the day, now perhaps the loblolly pine, which has taken over since the longleafs were so many of them were cut down, you would think, gosh, you drive into Clark County from here and you got all the yellow pine that you need. Why would I need something from overseas? What is or that's imported in here? I got friends and neighbors all in the pine business. What would I need something from Africa for?
Well, southern yellow pine is a great wood. There's a lot of availability of it. They have perfected growing those trees so that they can turn a tree around in about 20 to 25 years. And it's amazing that they grow them that fast. But the problem with it is there's no density to that lumber. It's full of air. And so it, by nature, is just not very durable at all. It's full of air, it's full of water. And so that lumber tends to rot very, very quickly. And so they treat it with various different types of treatment to give it durability, to try and make it last longer. Most of that stuff, depending on the application and where it is, will last 5 to maybe 15 years, depending on the application and the type of chemical they put in it. The lumber that we bring in is naturally durable. There's no chemicals in it. There's nothing in there that God didn't put it in there when it was grown in the forest. It's naturally durable. There's nothing we put in there to make it any stronger than it already is. It's very, very durable just naturally. And so it's a very natural product that's naturally durable. There's no chemicals or anything in it.
So if I were to go to Africa, let's say, or Asia or South America and find some of these trees, are they commercially grown?
They grow in a natural forest. They don't plant the trees. It's not a farm of any type. It's not a plantation. They're just naturally in the forest like you would have in the United States, like white oak or red oak or walnut. It's just a standard forest that grows.
And the density of the tree. I remember it was a couple of weeks ago. We had some live oaks up at this piece of property that my family has up in Clark County. A couple of them lost some big branches. We sectioned them out, and I tried to split them with the axe. And
not a fun day.
That live oak was not yielding. The white oak, no problem. The water oak, no problem. The live oak was as hard as anything I've ever swung an axe at. More BTUs in that thing because once it dries out and you put it on fire, it's going to burn all day. I would assume these are similar properties to the wood that you're bringing in.
That's correct. They don't do anything to that live oak to make it dense. That's just the way it is. It's just the species itself is a dense species. And EEE-pay or Kumru grappa, some of the species that we bring in, they're the same thing. They're just naturally dense and durable. They grow in forests that grow very, very fast, but they just grow very dense.
So what are some of the more popular, let's say, or prominent species that I may see in a decking application? That's the focus of our conversation, decking application. What works the best for those things?
EEE-pay is probably the biggest one that you're going to see. It's been around the longest. I think they've been importing it to the United States for 30 or 40 years. It's a really, really dense species. It's also there's a lot of it in the forest. If you were to go in the forest, it's sort of like white oak. There's a lot of it down there. Second to that would probably be Kumru. Kumru is a species that we bring in also from South America. It's not as dense as EEE-pay. But it's still very, very dense. It's still about twice as dense as southern yellow pine. And then second to that would be probably grappa or tigerwood. Grappa is about the same density as Kumru. It's a little bit less dense, but it's still twice as dense as southern yellow pine. And then there's tigerwood, and tigerwood is not as dense as the other two again, but it's still very dense.
Are these all South American trees?
They are. They are.
Yeah. So you harvest them. You work with the company down there that harvests them. You ship them here. When they come off I guess they come in a container. Everything comes in a container these days. They come in a container, and you open the container. Do I see the tree in its rounded shape? Has it been processed at all in South America before it arrives here?
It has. It has been cut to a S4S E4E deck board. It's already machined to pattern and ready to go. We bring it in, we grade it in Stockton, Alabama, or in our Texas location. We grade it to make sure the quality is where it needs to be. In some instances, we sand it. For example, EEE-pay is an air-dried species. It's not put in a kiln and dried. And so it just tends to be pretty dirty and grimy when it gets here. So we open the packages, put it through our sanders up at the mill, and then inspect it for quality and make sure the quality is where it needs to be.
I remember talking to Lucky, your brother, about this process of bringing it in, and is it Department of Agriculture that has a heavy hand in making sure there are no, parasites, or not parasites is not the word I'm looking for, but bugs that are coming in?
That would be Customs and Border Protection.
Okay.
So CBP comes up to our location every time we unload a ship. The containers are unloaded at our facility and inspected for any of those kind of things. They actually keep bug traps on our property that they check for, invasive things like that. We've never had any issues with them. We've got a great relationship with it and with CBP, and so that's how it works.
Does it come up? I know you're near the Alabama River. Does the product come on a truck, or do you float it up?
We're actually on the Tensas River up there.
Tensas.
Yes, sir. And so we used to bring barges up there and unload them at our facility, but that all stopped after Katrina. The Mr. Go closed for 40 days, and barge traffic stopped. The vessels that were carrying our type of product stopped calling the United States, and pretty much overnight everything went to container.
Yeah.
So we'll do 60 to 80 containers a month up there in Stockton.
Really, that many? Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So we're talking decking. Do you have any current, I'm guessing most people listening are like me. They're familiar with a pine dock. They're familiar with a pine boardwalk, just because of the proliferation of the product in this part of the country. Do you have any, who is already buying, let's choose EEE-pay. Who's buying EEE-pay right now? Who is a great customer, and why have they chosen it?
It's been used in commercial applications a good bit for its durability, for its natural durability, and how hard it is. For example, the Alabama Gulf State Pier, they just went back with EEE-pay. Before that, they had Southern Yellow Pine. They were replacing boards very, very often. We built them a test, a little 6-foot test area. They had it there for about 3 years, and it held up better than any of the other products that they tried. And so that's a great application for it. They'll have ATVs running out the end of the pier. They'll have thousands of people walking down that pier, and so it just holds up really, really well. And so people have seen it used in commercial applications. Disney World, for example, uses it. The Atlantic City Boardwalk is EEE-pay. And so heavy traffic areas, EEE-pay just really, really does well for stuff like that.
So is there a purpose for EEE-pay other than a foot traffic on a boardwalk? Is it used elsewhere and for other purposes?
Believe it or not, we actually run it to siding a good bit. Since it's naturally durable, people use it for siding in commercial applications and residential applications. You can leave it natural with no paint on it, and they'll use it for siding or soffits.
Yeah.
People build a lot of pergolas out of it. The Fort Worth Botanical Gardens, they have a huge pergola there that's naturally EEE-pay. It's natural EEE-pay, and so it's used for a lot of different things.
So I saw some of the stuff on your website. I think there's a facility in Hawaii that uses some of your product. Is that the EEE-pay as well?
It is. That was, I believe, a siding application. Honestly, I can't remember. That was about 15 years ago.
Oh, it's beautiful though. It's a beautiful picture out there, and you think, well, you wouldn't have a problem going out there and helping them put it up for a couple of days.
I'd be happy to. That'd be great.
It's a beautiful destination. So when we come back, what I want to talk about a little bit is if I'm going to hold EEE-pay in my hand, what am I going to feel? How's it going to be different? If I'm going to try to drive a nail through it, how's it going to be different? Because there are a lot of people that listen to this show that work with wood, that have houses on the water, that are curious and saying, what is this stuff? I'm sitting with Gregory Robinson. He's the Vice President of Operations and Business Development for the Overseas Hardwood Company. He has a Sewanee Forestry degree, and I want to say it again. He speaks functional Portuguese. Find me one of those, folks. Find me another one of those. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be back in just a moment.
I'm David Nelson, brewmaster and owner of Braided River Brewing. We want beer that goes along no matter where the adventure takes us and that doesn't make us choose between great beer and drinkability. We're drawn to the Delta and united by beer because to us, the best way to celebrate the Delta is to slow down and savor the moments and the beer together. Come visit our tap room in downtown Mobile and ask for us at your favorite bar or restaurant. Visit online at braidedriverbrewing.com.
It's Cam again with another strategic planning tip. When you begin the strategic planning process with your team, it's a good idea to write down what your age will be when the strategic plan is fulfilled. Me, I'm a fan of a 10-year planning process, so I have people write down their age in 10 years in big numbers at the top of their page. I ask them to write down who they'll be financially supporting in 10 years and who else living in their household will be earning a living in 10 years. This usually gets some chuckles, but it grounds people into reality. I then ask what they'd like their work schedule to be like. I want participants invested in the discussion and in implementing the plan once it's complete, and these tactics usually do the trick. Want help with your strategic planning? Search for Cam Marston online and drop me an email.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Stella Artois is a perfect beer for celebration. Nothing caps off a big sale, hitting your incentive goals, or a profitable quarter like a round of Stellas. Brewed first in 1708 as a special Christmas brew, today Stella is a gift for everyone to enjoy year-round. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio today with Gregory Robinson, the Vice President of Operations and Business Development for the Overseas Hardwood Company. You'll see him referenced around town as simply OHC. Gregory has traveled all over the world to find the products that they use, and it came to my attention, as I said in the opening comments, when so many of the hurricane footage after this past summer's storms began to appear, there would be a destroyed dock, the remnants of a dock. And next to it is a dock in perfect shape that maybe looks like it might have a board loose, whereas surrounding it are docks that have just vanished. And I began to ask the question, what is it about these docks that have made them so resilient? Began asking questions, and I was led to this answer. Those docks are made out of EEE-pay. A unique piece of wood, comes from South America, and it turns out that one of the previous guests on the show, Luckett Robinson's company, the Overseas Hardwood Company, sells EEE-pay in this marketplace. And he told me, yes, those docks you've seen in those videos and those pictures are customers of ours. And I said, I need to learn more about this. Gregory, back to you. You hand me a 2 foot by 2 foot, and I'm just making that up, piece of EEE-pay. And I hold it in my left hand, and in my right hand, I hold a piece of southern pine, which is what so many of those docks are made out of. What am I going to notice about these two pieces of wood?
The first thing you're going to notice is the weight. EEE-pay is 6.5 pounds per board foot. Board foot is a unit of volume. Southern yellow pine is going to be somewhere about 2.5 to 3 pounds a board foot. So EEE-pay is much, much more dense. It's very, very different.
And its density, I would assume, and every now and then when we were remodeling our house, we put some heart pine accents around the place, and we cut it on the site to put these accents in. And that heart pine was almost, I say solid, it was almost rock. It was hard, and it dulled the blades that were cutting it on site. I assume I'd experience the same thing. Very, very hard.
You would. EEE-pay is, tooling-wise, you would use the same tools that you would for any regular wood. It's just going to dull a little bit faster. A lot of times I'll use metal cutting blades on it, for example, for a jigsaw or something like that. But for a typical miter saw, you'd use just a standard carbide blade that you could buy anywhere.
But whereas it may take me, let's say, 10 strokes of a hammer to drive a nail through southern pine is going to take me 25 on the EEE-pay.
Well, I don't think you're going to drive the nail through EEE-pay. It's so dense that we actually pre-drill it, or the customer on site will pre-drill the deck board and screw it.
One of the things that I want to talk to you about is that facility that you have in Stockton and the machinery that I've read about in preparation for this conversation, but I want to get to that in a moment. So the EEE-pay wood on the docks that I saw on the photos, do you guys have strategies on how that you share with your builders or with your end users, whatever it may be, saying, hey, you're going to build a dock. This is the wood. Here's the way we suggest you building the dock, whether it be spacing of the boards or angles of the board. You know, we've been doing things traditionally down here for a long, long time, and a new idea takes a while to catch hold. Are you proposing new ideas for the way they build the docks?
I think one of the big things that that people don't realize is that pine floats. And so when you have a hurricane, oftentimes you have 4 to 10 foot of storm surge that comes in. And so EEE-pay doesn't float. So you don't have any of that upward lift of the floating dock that tries to pull the pilings and the substructure up with it as the water comes. And I think that's a big thing that people don't think about. EEE-pay sinks. If you were to drop a deck board in the water down at the bay, it would go to the bottom. And so as that storm surge comes in, that pier goes underwater and it's not pulling up on the pilings. And so if you add that in with heavy wave action, you can really just destroy a pier quick or a dock quick.
Yeah, with Southern Pine, you've got the upward pressure of the water on the pine. You've got flotsam and jetsam, or whatever the terms may be, stuff floating in the water bashing up against it. Whereas EEE-pay, it's a heavier, denser wood that is not pulling up as the water rises.
That's correct.
Is there gaps that you recommend between the boards or anything?
There are, and we recommend that you do at least a 3/4 inch gap between the deck boards. Usually you'll see an 1/8 inch gap. That's what most people do. But the wider the gap allows the water to actually flow through the pier, and you don't have that heavy wave action beating on the bottom of the deck boards as much. It comes up through those gaps. You can also use a narrower deck board. Instead of the typical 5.5, you could use a 3.5 inch deck board, and that just creates more air for that water to go through.
Yeah. I'm curious if after this past summer's storms and you guys began to see the footage of your docks that had done so well, did you get any calls from your customers going, you know what, you told me I should do this. I was really skeptical, but it worked.
We have. We've really been surprised at that. A lot of folks have been calling us saying, hey, look, my neighbor's pier made it through the last storm and mine didn't. It's gone. What did he use? How did he put it in? And let me do it. So we've actually got a bunch of places down at Dauphin Island that are all neighbors of each other, and they saw one guy's pier make it and theirs didn't, and so it's sort of a domino effect.
I know it's got to be, and I have no idea what it costs to build a pier. I have no idea if people will even insure those things anymore. I remember hearing only Lloyd's of London will insure a pier. I have no idea whether that's true or not, but it's got to be a bitter pill to swallow when you have to rebuild a pier every 3, 4, 5 years. And it's the case last year, maybe twice in a year, due to the different storms. And it doesn't have to be a hurricane. I mean, as we're sitting here right now, they're predicting the river rising due to the weather up north of the state. And there's going to be people that are going to lose some structure on the water due to this.
It's really unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's really unbelievable.
So one of the things that I saw as I prepared for the show is a list of machinery that you have available at your Stockton facility that can get any of these woods, not just the EEE-pay that we're talking about, not just the decking boards that we're talking about, ready to go. And these have got to be, I mean, tell me a little bit about this kind of stuff. I know you always didn't have that. These are investments you've made into the growth of the business so that you can prepare the product for the destination more quickly. Is that correct?
That's correct. We've been machining lumber from overseas for about 50 years, I guess 53 years now. Traditionally, we were making flatbed truck trailer flooring. We still do. But when we got into the decking business, we realized we could use a lot of that same equipment for our decking products. And so, for example, we have these precision and trim saws. So when we make trailer flooring, we'll make boards for them that drop directly into the trailer. And it works great for them. And we can cut very, very accurately the length. So we give 9 foot 9 1/16 inch, no problem. So when it comes to decks, a lot of people have floating docks or commercial applications where they're building a boardwalk that's, a quarter-mile long. And so we thought, these saws can cut any kind of wood. It doesn't matter to them, they'll cut anything. So we our first application was a floating dock in Hilton Head, South Carolina. It was I think it was 800 pieces of garapa that we pre-cut to 5 foot 6 inches and a half. And so we pre-cut all those boards, 800 pieces of them, in a factory setting, very, very accurately, shipped them directly to the job site, and they didn't have to do any cutting on site. And so it saved the contractor a lot of his labor. It also saved him a ton of time and got the job done quicker. In addition to that, we used to drill floor sills for refrigerated vans, and that drill press, again, it can drill anything. So that for that same job, he knew exactly where his stringers were going to be. He was building those things on site, and he said, "Look, it's going to take me forever to drill all these boards, drill and countersink them." And we said, "Well, we can drill that for you, no problem." So we drilled all the holes for him, and he basically just assembled it on site. And the installation time was about half of what he was expecting.
You know what it reminds me of? And I don't wish to belittle anything here, but prior to Christmas, we usually do a puzzle at our house. And this year I bought I don't know how many pieces Lego set. And I said, we're not doing a puzzle this year. We're going to build a Lego version of San Francisco. And every piece in that set has a purpose. And we were told, through the instructions, here's how to make this thing. You're making Lego docks, trailers, everything's pre-fit, everything's pre-cut. Here's how you put it together. And you don't need to bring a sawmill to Hilton Head to do this. We'll take care of this and send it to you.
I never thought of putting it like that, but that's exactly right. I enjoyed Legos when I was little too.
We all did. But yeah, it sounds this is so to me, this is new uses of this is a new way of treating stuff, because when I see in my mind's eye, when I see things being built, there's a lot of sawing and hammering and stuff on site. Now, this is not my business, but this is me outside looking in. You're taking away this on-site variable and taking ownership of it and taking care of it in your own facility.
That's right. And what people don't realize is that a lot of times that work that's done on the job site, they're doing that on the lumber that they've already paid for. And so if they mess up on the job site, they got to go buy another piece. And so we can do that in a factory setting. It doesn't work for everything. I mean, if you're if you're building your own deck in your house and your stringers aren't perfectly straight, we probably shouldn't drill that for you. But for large commercial applications, it works really, really well for them.
Yeah.
For the Alabama Gulf State Pier, we drilled 11,600 pieces and pre-cut them. And so that allowed the customer to have a sort of an assembly line at the base of the pier, pretty much just screwing the boards in place and carrying them out on the end of the pier. And so that application was a great opportunity for us.
Gregory Robinson is the Vice President of Operations and Business Development for the Overseas Hardwood Company based here in Mobile. They've got a big facility in Stockton, Alabama. I drove past it the other week. It's the first time I'd seen it, and it was beautiful. I didn't go in, but it was beautiful. Everything was clean, and I expected to see dust and piles of stuff, and that's not what I saw. You can hear that I'm a fan. I'm an advocate. This is another one of these kind of what I call, and I mean no offense here, Gregory, sleeper businesses in our town that are really pretty cool. And I'm going to use a term that you're probably unfamiliar with. Pretty dang sexy business once you look at what it is that they do. He just rolled his eyes. We're going to be back after this break with more with Gregory Robinson. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. Hi, I'm Cam Marston, host of What's Working. My Carrier Infinity system is quiet, energy efficient, and runs like a dream. To keep it running smoothly, I rely on a maintenance plan from Keith Air Conditioning. With a Keith maintenance plan, your home or business receives discounts and 24/7 priority service. Give Keith Air Conditioning a call today at 251-476-3610 or visit keithair.com. Keith and Carrier. Turn to the experts. It's Cam again. Each Friday, my 3-minute commentary is called Keeping It Real, are broadcast on Alabama Public Radio at 7:45 a.m. and 4:45 p.m. For 3 years, I've shared my thoughts and insights on the world and on life as I watch it go on around me. They've won a few statewide and national awards, and I really enjoy them. My goal for the commentaries? I simply want them to make you nod at something that you recognize, or smile, or maybe chuckle to yourself. Our world faces a shortage of good intentions these days, and my Keeping It Real commentaries are my effort to help fill this void. Search for Keeping It Real with Cam Marston in your Facebook search bar or on your favorite podcast app, and I hope you enjoy them.
I'm Matt Armbruster with Ransom Ministries. We help people in our community that most others have given up on. Please donate your unwanted electronics to Ransom Recycling. We teach life skills, job readiness, and job creation through our electronic recycling program. We take anything with a cord. Find us at ransomministries.com, or you can call us at 251-751-0044.
You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston in the studio with Gregory Robinson, the Vice President of Operations and Business Development for the Overseas Hardwood Company. Gregory, I'm smitten with wood. I think it's beautiful. I can't stop looking at it. By the way, your Instagram page, whoever manages that and shows pictures of this wood coming out of the machines and the befores and the afters and how it's been changed. Folks, if you have an Instagram account, go find the Overseas Hardwood Company. You can see the beauty of this product. And how they machine it to be ready for its application. But back to decking, EEE-pay. Obviously, you've talked about the value of that. I'm curious about the other woods that you mentioned in passing and whether they have similar qualities. They're dense, but what makes them different?
So for decking, we really have 4 different species that we sell. EEE-pay. EEE-pay is sort of the Cadillac species. It's the most expensive. It's really, really dense. It sort of has a brown color to it. It's sort of a chocolate color, but it also has some greens and some reds in it. So it has a very there's a lot of variability to the color of EEE-pay. In addition to that, Kumaru is more of a red species. It's a little less dense. It's a good bit cheaper. It's about 20% cheaper than EEE-pay. It's still a very pretty wood, but it's just a little different color, you know. And then we have Garapa. Garapa is sort of a yellow tan color. It's a little bit cheaper than Kumaru. It's a good bit cheaper than EEE-pay. So it just depends on sort of what color you're looking for. Tigerwood is also a species that we have, and it's got tiger stripe in it. It has almost black stripes in it, like a tiger does, and it's orange. And so, if you're an Auburn fan, it would probably go really well for you. So there's just a lot of color variation that you can sort of pick what color you want. They're all still very durable, very naturally durable.
Do they all sink like EEE-pay does?
EEE-pay definitely sinks to the bottom. It's hard as a brick bat. Kumaru, Garapa, and Tigerwood are also sinker logs. They're not going to sink as much. Those species are actually kill dried, whereas EEE-pay is air dried. So they would be right at the surface of the water.
Yeah.
But they're definitely not as buoyant as pine would be.
Yeah, because in our conversation on the decking, I can certainly understand the value of a wood that does not float when it gets approached by water underneath it and maintain that dock. It makes sense to me. I'm curious about the tigerwood. Where do the stripes come from? Do you have any idea what causes that?
It's mineral in the wood. It's a natural mineral that's in the tree.
Yeah. Is it a South American tree as well?
It is. All 4 of those are all from South America, Brazil.
What comes out of what makes those? Any idea why South America, Brazil, wherever you guys do your timbering down there, what makes those woods so dense versus everything else?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
In the same forest, there are species that are really, really not dense, growing right next to EEE-pay. It's just the way God made it. They're variation in species.
It's very interesting to me. I'm curious when you've been in this business now. It's the only, you told me during the break, it's the only job you've ever had is working for the family business. And you've seen wood, you've traveled all over the world to see the stuff. Is there a shipment that when it comes into your Stockton facility, you're giddy You're like, oh gosh, this is my favorite. I'm going to watch them. It's like Christmas morning for them. I'm going to watch them open the doors of the container, and I'm going to smell whatever and just embrace the wood. You become a tree hugger for just a moment.
I really love all the species we do. They're all unique in their own way for their own application, and so it sort of depends what I'm looking at. Black limba is a really, really interesting species. It's sort of a gray tan with black stripes in it. It's a very interesting looking species. It's sort of like zebrawood. Zebrawood is different though. It has black stripes in it as well, but they're more have to do with the annular rings. Black limba is probably one of my favorites, and that's one of the ones we get most of the comments about our various platforms. It's a great species.
So on your website, I think there are ways to see pictures of each of these species?
There is. At the top of the page, you can click on species, and there's the list of all the species we carry is there, and you click on that on whichever species it is you want to look at, and there's a photo gallery for each one.
Yeah. So there's a hobbyist out there or something. What are the venues where they can come check these things out around town?
Well, it depends on where they are in the country. In some areas, we'll sell to a lumber yard or a wholesaler in that area. In some areas, we'll sell direct to the end user. It really kind of depends on where they are in the country.
Yeah, but if they wanted to see a sample from, let's say, they I don't want a line of people in Stockton for you, but they want to see a sample. Is this something that I could go to Lowe's and say, hey, give me a sample of black limba?
No, you can't get it at Lowe's, but you can certainly call us and we can help you figure out a way to get the sample.
There'll be a distribution point somewhere that they can get a sample of that type of thing. I'm curious, a lot of this lumber obviously comes to the United States. Where else in the world is it used?
It's really used everywhere. I mean, you'll see E-pay in all sorts of applications all over the world. Like you said, it's in the Honolulu Symphony.
Yeah.
We've seen it at the Colosseum in Rome. We've seen it at Notre Dame in Paris. We've seen it at all sorts of places. It's widely used.
At the Colosseum in Rome?
We saw it used as sort of a walkway over parts of the Colosseum.
I think I've seen the picture of that walkway. Now that I think about it, as people can step into the Colosseum and look around from the inside, they're on a wooden deck to look around with a railing around them. So the secrets of the quality of this wood are not just between you and me right now. Other people know about it too.
It's widely used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the Chinese? Are they taking this stuff as well?
They do. I don't see a whole lot of shipments going to China, but the Japanese love E-pay. You see it going to Europe a good bit. So it's widely used.
I'm curious. Let's go back to our local environs here, the Mobile, Alabama area. Now that you see people who are familiar with the qualities of some of this decking, are they doing more elaborate things on their docks, knowing that, hey, I can spend a little bit more. I can create something a little bit more special here, knowing that it's much more likely to last. That we're probably going to get another blast again this summer, but I can spend a little more, knowing that it's going to stick around.
You wouldn't believe some of the piers and docks that people build now. I mean, they'll have kitchens out there, all sorts of benches and swings and things. Really unbelievable stuff that they're building these days.
What about salt water? You said it was the Gulf State Pier uses it. That's a saltwater application. Is saltwater more damaging to any of this stuff than fresh water than a river house would be or a bay house?
In terms of the lumber, no. We definitely recommend stainless steel fasteners for installing the material, but the lumber, it doesn't affect it in any way.
So when you say, again, I'm trying to jump into your industry here, a stainless steel fastener is, what are we talking about, a screw?
Yes,
a nail?
Screw.
Pre-drilled holes.
Pre-drilled holes. Pre-drilled and countersunk as well.
We've learned that because I imagine the battery on a screwdriver gun thing wouldn't last very long when it's going through this wood.
We'd recommend that you drill a hole that's the size of the shank of the screw.
Yeah.
So just the threads are going into the lumber.
Have there been any unique applications that really surprised you in any of this? This is not something that we've discussed. I'm throwing you a curveball. But any applications that, gosh, I didn't think about that.
So for the Alabama Gulf State Pier, they built that. I think it's 1,800 feet long, and all the panels in that are 6 foot by 6 foot panels, and they are not fastened to the pier. They're actually meant to blow out. So in the last storm, I think it was Sally that came through. The panels blew out as planned. They actually had a plate put on all of the panels with the phone number and the location where it came from.
Are you kidding?
I'm dead serious. And they found panels 4 miles away in somebody's pool.
In their pool.
They called the number, they brought it back, and listen to this. There was 468 panels returned to the Alabama Gulf State Pier, and only one EEE-pay board was broken.
Really?
One. Now, the substructure was actually a 2x12 Southern Yellow Pine, and a good bit of that had to be rebuilt, but the deck boards held up very well.
Very proud of your deck boards, aren't you?
I am.
You know what? That's a clever idea, folks. You're building a dock, put your name and phone number on every board that you put in there, and maybe you'll find a good Samaritan out there who's willing to return the board or call you to come get it.
You're going to want it back if it's EEE-pay.
I bet you are. I bet you are. We have a little fish camp down at Dolphin Island, and we pulled so much wood out from underneath the dock that some poor sucker lost in the storm. Like, we have no idea who to return this to, but this is a nice board, you know? I don't know what they were, but we've used them. Absolutely. Dry them out, and they become just as good, and you have no idea what to do with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's funny. So the 6x6, did you say, sections?
That's right.
Yeah. And is that is that what you would recommend to somebody? Let's say they're starting from scratch, floating sections?
Well, the 6x6 is really used for columns in most applications. Like if you wanted to put a pergola in your back in the back of your house, we carry 4x12s, but those are typically used for large commercial applications.
Yeah.
You don't really see EEE-pay used in residential applications a lot. I mean, we do it, but that's a really, really heavy board. They're 18 pounds a foot.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how heavy they are.
My goodness, yeah. Well, it's fascinating to me. And like I said, folks, when I saw those pictures and I wanted to know the answer to that, that's just what this radio show allows me to do, is ask questions of people that normally wouldn't take my call. But when you start calling around and say, why did your dock not sink in the storm? I want to put this story on the radio. It led me right back here to the Overseas Hardwood Company, which is fascinating because they were a guest of mine, 18 months ago. Gregory, it's been great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me today.
All right, so somebody's interested. Somebody wants to see what black limba looks like. Somebody wants to see what EEE-pay looks like. Give them the website.
The website is ohc.net.
ohc.net, Overseas Hardwood Company. Gregory Robinson, Vice President, Operations and Business Development, Overseas Hardwood Company. Again, thanks. I'll be back after this break with final comments. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston.
What's Working with Cam Marston is brought to you by Stella Artois Beer. Now offering the purchase of the Stella Artois Chalice, a beautiful stemmed glass with the Stella logo. The purchase of each Stella Artois chalice provides 5 years of clean water for someone in one of 13 developing countries around the world. Learn more at stellaartois.com. Stella Artois. Find it wherever fine beer is sold.
A cool thing happened back in '64. That's when Keith Air Conditioning opened their doors. And ever since then they've earned your family's trust, fixing your AC when it bites the dust. So call Keith Air Conditioning, they're number one. Keith Air Conditioning, they get it done. Award-winning service done with pride. With Keith you're gonna sleep in comfort tonight.
3 generations and 2 names you can count on, Keith and Carrier. Hi, this is Brent Keith. Turn to the experts is not just a tagline in my family, it's a promise. Every technician is an experienced air conditioning professional. Their money-saving experience and expertise diagnoses your problem accurately and efficiently. Speaking of money, we're offering $25 off our introductory price for a total comfort maintenance plan. And ask about our specials on new Carrier systems. Keith and Carrier, the experts you turn to.
Mobile's leading name in comfort since 1964.
License number 83731.
Think about your home. What do you see? Do you just see 2 stories, or the stories of your toddler's first steps? Now think about your car. Do you see an odometer reading, or your kids reading in the back seat? Other insurance companies just see a house. They just see a car. But a State Farm agent sees what your home and your car really mean to you. So why not give them the protection they deserve?
You can reach me, State Farm agent Allison Horner, at AllisonHorner.com.
Special thanks to Gregory Robinson for coming in and teaching us about EEE-pay. If you've got a waterfront structure, if you're tired of rebuilding your dock or your wharf or whatever you want to call it, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it sounds like it's going to keep rebuilding costs much lower. His EEE-pay would. We're going to finish tonight's show with another one of my Keeping It Real commentaries. These, if you've heard this show before, you'll know that these are aired Fridays on Alabama Public Radio. 3-minute commentaries. This one's called the Coleslaw Challenge. Those of you that may have heard in the past, we're trying to get these things to television, and I'm happy to say that they are slowly moving that way. We're finding people interested in sponsoring these on TV. If you have any interest in doing so, reach out. We'll tell you how to do it. The show is produced by John Thompson with Ion Digital. You got a show idea, folks? Reach out. Have a good week. And again, we'll wrap it with what we call the Coleslaw Challenge in my household.
On this week's episode of Keeping It Real, Cam Marston invites us to take the Coleslaw Challenge.
An elderly woman was walking out of the grocery store empty-handed. She was moving slowly. She looked a bit uncertain, and I was behind her with my cart. As she stepped up to the automatic doors, they opened, and a middle-aged woman hurried through, and her body language said she was on a mission. Her face was set, her eyes were up. She was on the move, no time to spare. The elderly woman reached out her hand and stopped her. "Do you know how to make coleslaw?" she asked, looking into the hurried woman's eyes. The question startled the other woman, and I saw her flinch as she snapped out of her mission-focused trance. She looked at the elderly woman, and I could see her replaying the question in her head. She took a deep breath. Her shoulders dropped, and she smiled. "Yes, I do," she said. "What do you need?" "Well," the elderly woman replied, a bit embarrassed, "I've forgotten what goes into coleslaw." Another smile, this one bigger. "Let's go," the middle-aged woman said, took her by the arm, and led her back into the grocery store. I continued into the parking lot, smiling. How wonderful was that, I thought. So great to see. It made me feel so good, and I wasn't even part of it. And when I got home that night, I told my wife about it. And I told my kids. And I told a guy I talked with on the phone that afternoon. Good news spreads, and it should. I was on fire about what I had seen, and I was so encouraged by what I saw that I made it the opening of this commentary. And it occurred to me that this is the great content that I'm here for. This is the type of stuff that makes me excited. These are the stories that we should spotlight, that should be told. And as I told these other people about these two women in the grocery store, I watched them get excited too. It's good stuff. The random acts of kindness that you and I know exist and that happen every single day around us, but we simply fail to notice them, or we won't allow ourselves to be moved by them. We're in our zone, not looking around. We're in our own mission-focused trance. Positive creates positive. Kindness creates kindness. It always has. It always will. Give away a smile, you'll get one back. Throw something nice out in our big old universe, and the chances are you're going to get something nice back. And it may look completely different. It may take its time, but it's coming. And it doesn't happen the same way on social media or watching the TV. It comes from getting out there and mixing it up with folks. Notice the things that make you feel good. Spend time on them. Let them permeate your bones. In my house, we're calling it the Coleslaw Challenge. I'm Cam Marston, and I'm just trying to keep it real.
To hear more of Cam Marston's commentaries, search for Keeping It Real on your favorite podcast app, or find them on Facebook.